Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show family. Along with Zach Meisel, I'm Adam the Bull. And Zach, the Guardians, it did not go well in Game 1, but they hope to bounce back behind Tanner Bybee in Game 2. Are you feeling confident or no?
No.
And on that note, welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. Game 1 went pretty poorly. It was a sloppy game. It was a bizarre game. The Yankees go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position and score 5 runs. 2 on solo homers, 1 on a sacrifice fly, and 2 on wild pitches. What stood out the most in this game to you?
The winning strategy was just to stand in the batter's box and not move. That's all the Yankees had to do. I mean, that third inning, they scored 3 runs on 1 hit.
Yeah.
And the 1 hit was the Soto home run, which started the inning. And then you just had this parade of missing the strike zone and, hitters walking and then moving to the next base, and scoring on a wild pitch. And it was
like a little league inning in a way.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, it was those innings where you're a parent and you're sitting there and you're just like, they'll call this after 2 hours and 15 minutes, right? We don't have to stay for the full 7 innings. It was rough.
Yeah, I've coached a lot of those games. You say guys were just standing there. In our game this past weekend, I had a kid who got hurt in the field in the 5th inning, right? He made a great play. Hard ground ball went off his shoulder. He picked it up, threw the kid out of first, and then he was crying because it hurt like hell. Kid was tough as nails. Love this kid. His name is Christian. Great kid. And in the bottom of the 6th, at the top of the 6th, we rallied. We took the lead. And he was on deck, and he says to me, "Coach, I don't think I could swing the bat. My arm hurts so much." I said, Christian, if you get up, we're not gonna not put you in there because that's an automatic out. I said, just get up in the batter's box and stand there with the bat, and hopefully you'll get walked. Now, he didn't end up coming to bat because the kid hitting before him made the final out of the inning. But like that's what it felt like watching that inning. It was like the Yankee batters were like, just stand here. They're going to screw it up. We don't have to do anything. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a weird game. Like, I feel like there's not a ton to take away from it just because we didn't see, you didn't see those battles of like, all right, I want to see Cade Smith against Aaron Judge.
Right.
No. I want to see if, the takeaways are Cobb and Cantillo and Stephen Vogt and various people in the offense, but I still don't know whether the best Yankees hitters can beat the best Guardians pitchers. And I feel like we need to know that to understand how this series will ultimately play out.
It was a bad vibe. It just felt like, I don't know about being at the ballpark. I've been watching this team as a fan with a lot of confidence. And I don't know. I mean, I guess part of it's just Yankee Stadium because we know rationally that the Yankees, even if they're better than the Guardians, it's not by much.
Yeah.
So, but there's something, I don't know. It's like all of a sudden their lineup feels more formidable than it's been all season. I don't know if part of that's Rizzo, like you hear a big name like Anthony Rizzo batting 8th, and we know the success he's had against the Guardians in the past. I don't know what it is, but
it's, and I had this feeling because I know you and I have kind of downplayed the Yankees lineup, and we've said, look, Judge and Soto are 2 of the very, very best at what they do. Jazz Chisholm is a pretty good hitter. Austin Wells is a pretty good hitter, but there's a lot of guys who like Verdugo had a terrible season, and Anthony Rizzo had a terrible season.
Right.
But if you're comparing these lineups and you look and it's like, well, Rizzo and Verdugo are hitting 8-9 for them. And for Cleveland's lineup, Bo Naylor doesn't have a hit yet.
No.
In the postseason. So even though Rizzo had a bad year, I think you still trust him to deliver, even when he's injured here, more than Bo Naylor or whoever's playing right field for Cleveland. That's the tough part. Is there are still people with a pedigree who you can't just completely write off, whereas it feels like Cleveland has some automatic outs in the lineup right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Oddly, their number 9 hitter is one of their more reliable hitters right now in Rocchio. But the 1 and 9 hitters have been great. You know, Fry has been pretty good, and Lane Thomas has obviously been excellent. That's been about it. You know, Jimenez the last 2 games has been better. You know, Jose had the home run, but like in the 8th inning last night, Jose had that superstar chance. He had a chance as one-sided as the game felt, as over as it felt early. He had a chance there. You know, even if Jose came through with a base hit, just a single, like now you're running up Weaver's pitch count. You know, maybe you wear him down in the 9th. Who knows? But first of all, what did you think of Brennan pinch hitting there? I didn't love it. I understand. You know, sometimes you got to go gut over analytics, and I'm certainly a big analytics guy, but sometimes you got to go gut over analytics. And Fry's had a lot of big at bats lately, and I didn't love going to Brennan in that particular spot. But
yeah, especially, you know, one swing there,
right,
changes the game, and Brennan's not going to give you that swing. But does Brennan give you a better chance of just getting a single to keep it alive for Jose?
maybe, probably,
in a more
yeah,
advantageous
I
situation.
don't know.
Yeah, and there were a lot of like little decisions that were strange that probably didn't make, well, in Cantillo's case, maybe made the difference in the game. But, you know, in the end, it's still like guys didn't execute. You know, it never felt like a game that they were meant to win. Which is what's weird. Like it felt like all 5 of those games in the Detroit series were winnable.
Yeah.
And it felt like they were going to go down swinging with their big guns. And like we saw, you know, Cade Smith and Tim Herron pitched in all 5 of those games. And it was just a matter of whether they got the timely hits or not. And in this game, it just, like once Soto hit that home run and then the inning just completely unraveled, it was like, I don't know. It never felt like they had a chance.
No. It didn't feel that way, but they did. Ultimately, in the 8th inning, they had a chance. But I want to go back to the beginning. And, you know, I admit that before the series, I didn't say, oh, don't pitch Cobb. I was advocating for Williams, but not strongly or necessarily over Cobb. And on the broadcast last night, though, when the trainer came out, the sideline or the dugout reporter, I can't remember her name, but she said something about talking to the trainer and that maybe there had been some, I don't know if concern's the right word, but like some potential, well, I'm going to say concern because I can't think of a better word right now, about Cobb's like ability, arm strength, because he's pitched so little. And even though his fingernail was fine and the blister was fine, that they were worried on some level about his arm getting tired. And it just, when I heard that, I was like, well, why did they feel such a need to start Alex Cobb? Like Ben Lively. And again, it's a clear second guess, especially with Lively, because I haven't said he's got to be in the roster. He's got to be in the roster. He was reliable all year. I get Cobb has a better track record, but it's not like he's Greg Maddux, you know. And especially with Gavin Williams, like it's game 1. The Yankees have the edge at home anyway. Why not take the chance with the guy who's got the most upside in your rotation rather than Cobb? You know, like Cobb at his best is not going to be as good as Gavin Williams at his best. I don't know. It's just kind of thoughts that I'm flowing out here now, mostly because of how it ended up going down. Right. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the options are Lively, Williams, and Cobb's the only one with postseason experience. Game 1 at Yankee Stadium. Figure he can handle that environment better than the other 2. 2, the stuff. So Williams has faced the Yankees. He pitched at Yankee Stadium opposite Garrett Cole in August.
Yeah.
Looked really good for like 3 innings and then completely fell apart. I don't know. You want Lively throwing his 89-mile-an-hour heater toward Judge and Soto? Like, that's That's a little scary. Um, and I also think that, I think Lively was just losing steam down the stretch. I mean, he just was not the same pitcher in September.
Right.
And with Cobb, he's a sinker baller. And I think the thought is at least he'll keep the ball in the ballpark for the most part because he's trying to get ground balls. Obviously, he gave one up to Soto. But
Yeah.
I think those are the reasons, whoever is starting game one, you hope is going to start at game five if there's a game five, right? So you're also thinking about this in terms of making 2 starts in the series, whereas, if Gavin Williams starts game 4, he's only going to pitch. That's it.
Right.
There's no game 8. So those are the things that went into it. And I think also not knowing that you were going to advance. Like Gavin Williams has not pitched since September 22nd. And I know Cobb went forever without pitching
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
But he was lined up. He pitched in these sim games, built up his pitch count so that he could start game 3 in Detroit. So like he's been on a regular rotation for a little while and throwing a lot. Gavin Williams is just like not thrown. Finally, Sunday, he threw 20 pitches off the mound just because he was in the bullpen. They didn't know how or when they were going to use him. So I think it just, there were more, like this, it didn't work, right? I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think that's their thought process why he was the guy, because it would have just been, I think with Lively, they just, especially the way he kind of tired at the end of the season, they just don't trust his stuff. But Williams,
I guess the
I'm
Williams,
with you on the upside there.
I just think like, okay, he pitched 3 innings and then he got blown out after that. But what were the odds that Cobb was going to go much more than 3 innings anyway? I don't know. I mean, listen, again, it's a second guess at this point. And in terms of like the experience and pitching at Yankee Stadium, like if they were so worried about that, then why bring in Cantillo in that situation?
Well, that's,
and I honestly, I didn't have a big problem with it because Cantillo had pitched well down the stretch. I actually had a bigger problem with them bringing him out again the next inning. And I know the argument would be, well, you got 2 lefties to start the inning. So, we can't bring in Avila. We got to wait to bring in Avila for Judge, or, well, if we bring in Sabrowski to start the inning, well, now he's got to face Judge as the third batter of the inning. But at that point, Cantillo had looked such a mess. Although I want to get into the Bo Naylor part of this, that I don't know why you brought him out for the next inning. But what did you have more of a problem with, him coming in, period, or coming in the next?
I also think it was like a perfect storm. I mean, the trainers came out and checked Cobb after the walk to Judge.
Yeah.
And I guess he had hip surgery a year ago, and from time to time, tendonitis flares up, and it flared up, and he was having some back spasms. So there are questions about whether he can even pitch again in this series. They don't know.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't, if he can't go, they got to replace him on the roster and get another pitcher. And maybe that's where Ben Lively comes in. But
yeah.
But so they were hoping he could gut through a couple more outs.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they needed to warm someone up, and they chose Cantillo. And so my armchair quarterback revisionist history here is Terry Francona had mastered this. And I had never seen a manager use this strategy until he did. And I think Vogt did it at times during the season. It didn't stand out as much. I feel like they didn't need to do it a lot. But you don't go to your long reliever in the middle of whatever mess is being created. You go to a guy to get out of that, and then you bring in the long reliever to start the clean inning.
Yeah.
So, at the point where the trainers came out and checked on Cobb, there's a runner on first, nobody out. So maybe you're not assuming it's going to turn into this big mess. Obviously, if they knew that whoever was coming in was going to come in with the bases loaded, they probably wouldn't have had Cantillo up. That seemed, if you could just pick a reliever at that moment with the bases loaded, 2 outs, etc., you probably would pick Sabrowski, right? You want the lefty because you got lefties coming up, and he pitched in that Detroit series. He pitched in game 5. He looked pretty good there. You'd probably want to go to him to just get out of that and then go to whoever is your long reliever, Cantillo, Avila, whatever, in the next inning. think the problem is they got Cantillo up, and then by the time it got to the lefties, the bases were loaded.
Yeah.
And so it's a terrible spot to bring in a rookie who, command is not it hasn't been his calling card this season.
They
It
could have
certainly
got two
wasn't.
guys up.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the first time he faced the Yankees. And not only that, but this is a lineup that is so patient
Yeah.
and had walked the bases loaded. So, there was just no margin for error, and it obviously devolved the way it did.
Bo Naylor has been absolutely horrendous in this postseason. He doesn't have a single hit. I mean, the Naylor brothers both have been terrible, but specifically Bo, not a single hit. I mean, has he even made any good contact? I mean, maybe he has. I just don't remember. I thought he contributed. Like, he's got to block some of those. I know as soon as it goes in the dirt, they call it a wild pitch always. But come on. I mean, if everybody's so good defensively, well, you got to make some of those plays. You got to help him pitcher out a little bit.
Yeah, there was one I saw the replay of where he looks like he tried to backhand it, but if he would have just thrown his body in front of it, he would have stopped it.
That was disappointing. And then, obviously it got away. Now, let's look at the positives. The positives, Stephen Vogt and Brian Rocchio continue to play great baseball.
Stephen Kwan, too.
Oh, who did I say? I said, Stephen Vogt.
You just crushed him, and now you're saying he played great baseball.
Stephen Kwan and Rocchio, fantastic. Rocchio, I mean, this is unbelievable. That ball was crushed, that home run.
Yeah.
I don't know that I love the dance move when you're down 4-1, but all right, whatever.
Well, he savored that because a fan threw the baseball back onto the field, and it landed in left field before Rocchio was even at first base. So. But he's been, and then, in the eighth inning, he's keying that rally too.
Yeah.
A lot of confidence right now.
Yeah, he's ton of confidence. You love to see it because you haven't seen it from a shortstop on this team in a number of years since Lindor, basically. So that's a positive. Another major positive, which hopefully will pan out tonight, is that you didn't have to use any of your A guys. And you have a day off tomorrow. So anybody you have to use today will only pitch once in 4 days. In a perfect world, Bybee goes 5, and then your 4 key guys go 1 inning each, and you win the game. And then by the time you get to Game 3 in Cleveland, your key guys have only pitched 1 inning in 4 days. I mean, I know it's not going to be easy because you're facing Garrett Cole, who's been a great postseason pitcher especially against the Guardians. But if it went that way tonight, it'd be pretty sweet. And then the Guardians would be feeling really good about themselves. They could turn around in a hurry.
So these are the advantages of finishing your series a little earlier, right? The Yankees were so refreshed. They had their feet up, waiting around to see who they were going to play. And it's a little facetious because they were done 2 days early, but those 2 days matter.
Yeah.
They had everyone ready to go. Their one really good reliever was able to get 5 outs.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Guardians, we're talking like this was a positive that they didn't have to use their best relievers.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, like you would have, I just think back to 2 years ago where because you had to play the wild card round, you burned Bieber and McKenzie. So then you get to Game 1 against the Yankees, and it's Garrett Cole against Cal Quantrill. And that matchup happened twice, and they lost both times.
Yeah. And
that's just a benefit of being the higher seed and being able to wait around and arrange things the way you want. And here, those guys they've got to be gassed. Like, they never admit it, but that was such a quick turnaround going from they flew Saturday night to New York, and then they worked out at the ballpark the next day, and here you go, it's Game 1. And then the Yankees had a few days to recover. So in a perfect world, though, you could have had Bybee in Game 1 and given those guys rest.
That's
and
then
deploy the bullpen more in Game 2. I guess my point is the day that they have the 4 relievers are well rested here.
Yeah.
It's the one guy who could actually give you some innings starting.
That's true. But again, maybe that benefits them because now those guys have to go 1 inning instead of pushing it 2 and 35 pitches.
Sure.
So listen, if the Guardians are going to win the series, they probably need to win this game. It's obviously not going to be easy with Garrett Cole, but you have, I mean, I think Stephen Vogt will manage this game differently. I thought it was funny in the broadcast before the game yesterday. They said, well, Stephen Vogt says he's got to get more out of his starting pitchers. Well, I mean, it was his choice to not get more, especially with Boyd and Bybee. Like, they definitely could have pitched more.
Yeah.
Boyd could have pitched more in both games, certainly in Game 5, and Bybee could have pitched more, in his game. But
well, the real test will be Game 3 because Boyd will start.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have that quick hook.
No.
Knowing you've got Game 4 the next day and potentially Game 5 the day after that.
But it also depends on the series. Like if it's 1-1, if you're down 0-2, then maybe you still have the quick hook, even though it's Game 3. Because obviously then you have to win Game 3. But
those middle 3 games where you don't have an off day, like some starter's going to have to give you 5 innings,
right?
And your choices are Boyd, Williams, and Lively/Cobb.
Right. You're not even going to have Bybee in those games. So, yeah, it's going to be tricky. I think Boyd, to me, what I've seen from Boyd, he can give him some innings.
Yeah.
If they're willing to, I mean.
He pitched all right. Remember, he faced the Yankees at Yankee Stadium in August, and he gave up back-to-back homers to
That's right.
Soto and Judge, but then looked good after that.
Yeah.
It's, just don't give up home runs to the 2 of the 3 best hitters in baseball.
I wonder if the Guardians would think about going an opener, not tonight, obviously, but with games 3, 4, and 5. So this way the starter comes in after Soto, Judge, and maybe they could pitch 4 or 5 innings and face them, twice instead of 3 times.
Yeah.
Might be good. I don't know. You think they would consider that?
Who's the opener?
Well, I mean, that's the tricky question because
Cantillo?
No. Well, I was thinking more like Cade Smith, Tim Herron. I don't know. And it's tricky because Soto's a lefty and Judge is a righty. It makes it really tough. There's not an obvious, They're both so dangerous. Obviously, Judge is more dangerous, but I don't know. I mean, right now, Judge has more swing and miss. I mean, obviously, I don't even know if it's fair to say that Judge is even more dangerous. They're both so dangerous that
your thought is on track, though. Like the logic behind it makes sense. If you're going to use 5 pitchers in a game, you want, and if Judge and Soto are going to hit 4 times, let's say, you want the best of those 5 pitchers facing those guys each time, right? So do you want 2 or 3 of those at-bats coming against Matthew Boyd or whoever it is, Cobb? Or do you want them to face Cade Smith once and then Boyd once and then Gaddis once and Clase? Like, you obviously can't script it out perfectly, but in each of these games, like the starting pitcher is probably 4th or 5th on that hierarchy behind the really good relievers.
Yeah.
So can you make sure that they're only facing those guys once?
Right.
And that's a way to do it. But, the alternative is just only letting the starter go one time through the order, or I don't know.
And
you can't really do that in games 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, we just talked about it. You need to get some length out of these guys.
Yeah.
But at the very least, if you have the opener, they only face the starter twice, as opposed to 3 times. Obviously, in a perfect world, it's once as opposed to twice. And, he just mows everybody else down. And so he can still, in theory, get through 5 innings and face those guys once. Obviously, unlikely, but yeah. Getting back to Jose, because we didn't talk about it too much. Mentioned that he had his opportunity. Yeah, he is really, we've talked about it already. He has not been good in the postseason, period. And, listen, there's been a lot of great players that have not done well in the postseason for whatever reason. This is not basketball. It's not even football. Like, there are plenty of great players who don't play in the postseason, who haven't been good. And Mike Trout's played 3 games in the postseason in his career. Ohtani had never played in the postseason before this year. So no matter how good you are, it doesn't mean you're going to get there. And it certainly doesn't mean you're going to have success if you are there. But nonetheless, the expectations are there. And on this team, Jose Ramirez, like if he doesn't play well, it's hard to believe the Guardians are going to win this series ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what's gone right for the offense, and like Lane Thomas had a couple big swings, right? But aside from that, it's been Rocchio and Kwan.
Yeah.
And those guys getting on base back to back sets up the middle of the order. Like you couldn't dream up a better scenario here if you're Cleveland. The problem is the middle of the order has given you nothing. It's Jose and it's Josh Naylor, and then it's whoever the right fielder and catcher are. I mean, that's a different conversation. Like I'm at the point where I don't expect Noel / Brennan or Bo Naylor / Hedges to contribute anything. So it is Jose and it's Josh Naylor, who have opportunities. There are guys on base when they come up to the plate, and the difference is I feel like Jose's had some really good at bats.
Yes,
in the playoffs, and like he scorched one to the wall. Yesterday that I thought would at least hit off the wall for a double.
Agreed.
I think it hung up there in the wind. Like I know that like the numbers don't look good again. He had the home run in the Detroit series, the solo shot, but like it hasn't been a good playoffs for him. I'm still not worried about him. Like
I'm not either. I agree with you.
He's okay. Naylor's at bats just look atrocious, and I don't like that. To me, it's just pressing. It's trying to do too much. All those cliches, but it's legitimate, and I don't know. He looks hopeless at times.
He does. And I've had a lot of fans say to me, "Why don't they bench him?" And like, you can't bench him. He's been your second best offensive player. You need him to break out of this. If everybody else was hitting and there was some clear option on the bench, I'd be like, well, like I was thinking last night, I was like, maybe tomorrow, with all the righties in there, and Manzardo's going to DH, like maybe David Fry can play right field again. And, because I'd rather have his bat, but he just hasn't been able to play the field. And then I'm like, well, I guess they could DH Fry and put Manzardo at first base. But ultimately, you need Naylor to turn it around. I mean, he's got to be a part of this. You're not going to bench him. That's crazy.
First of all, he hit a home run off Garrett Cole 2 years ago in the playoffs. Right. Like we've seen this happen. But if you're going to win, you have to have those key guys produce. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You can't bank on Lane Thomas or David Fry bailing you out with the key home run with guys on base. So, it's we've talked about this a little bit, but like, I know it's Garrett Cole, so it's not so simple, but there is a short porch in right field.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have Manzardo in there. You're going to have Naylor in there. This is an opportunity. Like, you need those guys to deliver here. Those guys who are supposed to be feasting on right-handed pitching. You're going to face a lot of it in this series.
It's weird. Like, it's been such a warm September, October. It was weird that it was like, and it was cold here yesterday too. But it was weird for them to watch them playing I know it's this time of year, it happens,
but it's that stadium is always 10 degrees colder than it says, because you always have a wind blowing in at you, or even if the wind's blowing out. There are so many times where I've looked at my phone and I've seen, it's gonna be 65 degrees. Like, it'll be nice in the press box tonight, and it's open air. And I get there and I'm shivering and I'm drinking hot cocoa or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be cold again today.
Yep.
It'll probably be in the 40s at game time. It's supposed to warm up the middle of this week in Cleveland, so it should be, warmer then. But you got to deal with those elements. All right, let's get some fan reaction here before we wrap it up. Old Ben Jose had 2 great swings last night. He just gets overexcited and gets his head off the ball. The wind was blowing in. Otherwise, he would have had 2 doubles. May have hit a home run. I don't know. Man, Carlos Rodon was fantastic.
He looked really good.
Oh, my God. He was so bad against the Royals. They smoked him. And overall this season, he's been, since going to the Yankees, really, he's not been very good. But that was the best I've seen him look. Like that was like White Sox Rodon right there.
Like the guy who threw a no-hitter in almost a perfect game.
That's right.
3.5 years ago.
Yeah. B says Manzardo had a great at-bat. I mean, he ultimately struck out. I did think it was a good at-bat in him. I'm curious to see what he can do with regular at bats here the next few days.
It's been tough because they've faced a bunch of lefties.
Yep.
Those bullpen games with the Tigers were left-handed predominantly, and so it's been a lot of Fry in the two spots. So yeah, but I would think the next 3 games you're facing right-handed starters, and it'll be Manzardo.
Let's see. Diesel says Jose is properly rated. He's a great player, but not someone great pitchers shit their pants about. I mean, do pitchers fear Jose like they fear an Aaron Judge or an Ohtani or a Soto?
Yes, yes, and this is. Did you see the Aaron Boone quote about Jose being underrated?
Yeah,
it is a thing. Like maybe not in the same fashion because Judge hits 60 home runs a year, but they fear Jose the player more than people realize because for whatever reason we just don't talk about him nationally.
He's just not built like those guys. Like those guys are massive human beings. So you get it in your head that they're more intimidating. Like I don't know how pitchers feel, or is a pitcher more nervous? A great pitcher's not nervous facing anybody, but
go look at the Tigers walked Jose Ramirez intentionally, I think twice in that series, and then the DS. And AJ Hinch said, like, I hate intentionally walking guys, but that guy deserves it. Like it says a lot that we intentionally walked him multiple times, and within the game, he's respected and he's rated how everyone thinks he should be.
Right.
But in these circles, for whatever reason, he's underappreciated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, within the game, people understand how good he is. But it's natural that you see Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani and what they look like physically.
Yeah.
And they just look so much bigger. So it's natural for a casual fan or a non-Guardians fan to think, oh, those guys must be much better. They're bigger. And there's something to that. But Jose Ramirez is as respected or feared or whatever word you want to use as much as any player in baseball because he's an incredibly dangerous hitter. And you can say, well, he hasn't been great in the playoffs. Well, neither is Aaron Judge.
And it's not even
a lot of players.
It's also what he does once he gets on base.
Yeah.
Year after year, he's among the best base runners in the game. So there's so many ways he can beat you. I think he's just a pest. I think teams hate facing him.
Yeah. And he's harder to strike out than a lot of the other great players.
That too.
By the way, Shohei Ohtani with a 677 OPS in his first postseason so far. He has not played well in this Mets series. He's 2 for 7 with no extra base hits. He has walked a few times. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'll be on live tonight with a post game with Bet Rivers. And then Zach and I will not be on tomorrow morning because he's traveling. So we'll do our next Ultimate Guardian show Thursday morning. We'll look back at game 2 and then really look ahead to game 3. And, obviously, if the Guardians win game 2, things will be rocking at Progressive Field either way for game 3. But if it's 1-1 with a fairly fresh bullpen, you're going to be feeling really good about it. As down as we are right now and as down as the fans are right now, it could turn around in a hurry with a victory tonight.
And this isn't prime Garrett Cole, but I still can't remember a time where he's pitched poorly against Cleveland. So maybe he's due.
Yeah, let's hope so. Zach, great stuff. We'll talk to you folks next time on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.